Well, tonight, while the rest of the world is focusing on Iran and Great Britain as they need to, we also need to keep an eye on the homeland. Do you remember those innocent imams who got booted off a plane in Minnesota for reportedly shouting Allah Akbar at the gate area, denouncing America, and then changing their seats to the same ones the 9/11 hijackers used? Well, it turns out they may not be quite as innocent after all. The media is afraid to tell you that, and in a way, so am I, but buckle up, you need to hear it. Here's the point tonight. There is an extremist plot afoot here in America to silence dissenting voices. And here's how I got there. Everybody in the media was so quick to point out that these poor imams were being horribly persecuted for peacefully expressing their freedom of religion at the airport. People were shocked, claiming that the imams were victims of bigotry. One of the imams, Omar Shaheen, lashed out at Americans saying, quote, "If you don't by now know that about our prayers, this is a real problem." The imams filed suit against the airline, and again, the media just ate it up. An anchor on MSNBC even compared them to civil rights icon Rosa Parks. Sorry, Omar and MSNBC, I got news for you. You ain't no Rosa Parks. You're not even Bert Parks. Here is the truth about Omar Shaheen. This is the leader of the Flying Imams. No relation to the Flying Nuns. He has reportedly helped raise money for at least 2 charities that have been suspected of supporting terrorism. For 3 years, he headed the Islamic Center of Tucson, which one terrorism expert described in the Washington Post as, quote, basically the first cell of Al-Qaeda in the United States. He and the other 5 imams are being supported by the Muslim American Society. This is what the Chicago Tribune reports, a group that was formed from the fundamentalist Muslim Brotherhood, which preaches, quote, that governments eventually should be Islamic, end quote. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure Rosa Parks never said anything like that. To me, the most chilling part of this story is that you at home are probably hearing this for the first time, and you're the informed part of America. Everybody else is getting their news from The Daily Show, or they think the news is who got kicked off of American Idol this week. The media has not told you the truth. I believe it's several reasons: apathy, ignorance, bias, and fear. They are intimidated by some of these Muslim organizations, and as a result, you are not getting the complete story. The imams are trying to intimidate the airlines and persuade you, the passengers, to not notice things that can be dangerous or out of the ordinary. Meanwhile, Sharia law is being shoved down the throats of Muslims here in America. You don't believe me? You ask the Somali community in Minnesota. This is a dangerous combination, and unless bigger personalities than I start paying attention to this on TV, we won't be worried about the separation of church and state anymore. We'll be worried about the separation of mosque and state. So here's what I know tonight. There are forces at work, not just in Tehran, but in Dearborn, Minneapolis, Phoenix, Norman, Oklahoma, Washington, D.C., that are aggressively trying to get people to bury the truth. Listen to me, America. No matter how afraid you are, Muslim and non-Muslim, you must speak out before it's too late. Here's what I don't know. If what I'm saying is true, how come I'm only reading about it, about this imam, in a story that was buried in the weekend edition of the Wall Street Journal? Joining me now is Katherine. Kersten, she's from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, who wrote the Wall Street Journal piece, and Zuhdi Jasser. He is the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Katherine, let's start with you. You believe Minnesota is becoming a window on America's future that looks a lot like Europe. How did you get there?
That's correct. Here, since 2001, we have had 5,000 instances of Muslim cab drivers at the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport refusing to transport passengers carrying alcohol. One woman was denied passage 5 times in a row by cab drivers before she finally found someone who would tote her home.
Now, are these people?
We have cab drivers.
Are these people that are drunk, or they just have alcohol with them?
These are folks coming back from Napa Valley, from France, with a bottle of wine in a duty-free bag.
Okay.
We've had cab drivers refuse to transport blind people with seeing eye dogs.
Is it true that the government, the local government, said we should put little lights on top to say we'll take alcohol, we'll take blind dogs, or not?
That's right. That's right. I should point out, too, that about three quarters of our cab drivers at the airport here are Somali Muslims. This is a large proportion of the people who drive cabs. There was an attempt by the Metropolitan Airports Commission to solve this problem, to accommodate these folks. And yes, they did suggest a pilot program involving 2 colors of top lights on cabs, who would and who would not transport people with alcohol.
Okay, Zuhdi, let me play devil's advocate. Why not? Why do you have to be so hateful? Why not just allow people, if they don't want to carry people with alcohol, they don't want to carry blind dogs, why not?
Well, my perspective is that this is a fundamentalist interpretation of Islam. These are Wahhabist, Salafist interpretations of people that want to impose their beliefs upon others. And I, as a Muslim, a pious Muslim, I believe, I practice my faith regularly. I'm devout in my practice. I raise my children to be good Muslims and good Americans. The reason my parents came to this country was to escape this type of imposition, this type of coercive force in our society, and that's not Islam. Islam is a personal, spiritual faith.
All right, so Katherine, who's pushing it? Because it's really being jammed down the throats of this Somali community in Minnesota.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. From what I can tell, and I've interviewed a lot of ordinary Somalis about this, this is not at all a mainstream interpretation in the Somali community here.
Who's pushing it?
The Muslim American Society Minnesota chapter issued a fatwa, in June of 2006, as I recall, claiming that cab drivers who did transport people carrying alcohol were committing sin themselves. And this is where the problem starts. There are hardline activists here, very eloquent, highly organized, who are trying to exploit the Somali community for their own purposes.
Okay, so Zuhdi, you have this, and this creates a two-tier justice system, and this is what we're seeing over in Europe like crazy. A German judge just ruled that a woman couldn't get divorced because she was Islamic and she was married in Morocco, and she should have known that in Morocco, according to Sharia law, apparently the way it was interpreted to her, a man has a right to beat a woman. So I'm sorry, the German judge couldn't do anything, and that's what he ruled. This is the kind of stuff that's coming here, isn't it?
Exactly, and I'm telling you this as a Muslim, in that terrorism is a tactic. The ideology and the ends that the terrorists seek is no different than this, which is Islamism, an inculcated process system into our society, whether it's parallel or separate, it doesn't matter. We need to fight this, because in order for Muslims to be free, liberated in our faith, and America to be protected from that ideology, we cannot allow these types of processes and organizations like the Muslim American Society to seek this type of parallel society that I think is wrong for Muslims and wrong for America.
Why do you say they're pushing it, though, Zuhdi? What is their intent? I mean, this is pretty...
Their intent is Islamization. They feel that somehow their faith is their role to push that upon others. And they don't understand that actually religion is abrogated when you force anybody or you impose it upon somebody else. So we need to have this debate. This is how we're going to defeat Islamism, is to open up the issue, allow Muslims to debate it publicly, and tell the Muslim American Society their fatwa is wrong, there is no such a thing in the Sharia, and that our Sharia should stay at home and not be imposed upon others.
Zuhdi, Katherine, thank you very much. Now, I want you to